Broadcasting from various countries around the world using voice over IP technology, this is VoIP Uncovered, a VoIPon Solutions UK podcast. I'm David Frith, and today we're interviewing Sangoma Technologies, and I'm delighted to welcome Frederic Dickey, Vice President of Professional Services and Product Management at Sangoma. Thank you for taking our podcast today, Frederic.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Please can you tell the VoIPon audience what Sangoma have been up to over the last 12 months?
We're always very busy, but broad lines is we're really pushing towards our continuous expansion of our presence worldwide. So now Sangoma a few years ago was focused or had most of its personnel located in North America. We now have sales engineers, support, R&D and engineers in key regions all over the world, be it Latin America, Europe, of course, has always been a focus, but also increasingly in Asia. So very wide presence, from a personnel presence. On the product side, continuously introducing new products. Broad lines here as we've introduced a very significant release of the software that runs our session border controllers, introducing features like IPv6 interworking. Alongside with the Microsoft launch of Skype for Business, we've evolved our Link Express platform to now support Skype for Business, which is the most recent iterance. We've introduced new gateways like the Vega 3000Gs, which cover many analog lines. And even, in the high-end service provider market, we have now SS7 gateway solutions that cover up to 64 E1, so 2,000 channels approximately in the same box. And of course, on the acquisition front, we've been, it's been just 9 months now, but we've acquired 2 companies, Schmooze Communications. So we're now the sponsor of the FreePBX open source project. And also we have a service that we call FaxBox, which is a fax over internet, is a product that we sell as a service. So this takes us in very different, complementary, but very different markets. So busy year for sure.
Please could you tell us more about the Sangoma FreePBX range of products, including the FreePBX 50 and FreePBX 300, and the benefits of using the Sangoma FreePBX hardware system?
Yes, for sure. So one of the things, as I mentioned, acquiring the FreePBX project, there's many ways to use FreePBX. Many integrators will simply download the FreePBX software and they will install it on the hardware of choice. They will complement it with telephony cards, voice over IP gateways, SBCs, maybe supplying their own phone. So a lot of people do that, and it's perfectly fine. They buy commercial modules that facilitate installation or enable enhanced features on FreePBX. So that's one way, but there's many or several of our resellers and distribution that are not necessarily interested in assembling or building their own. So this is why we've introduced these ready-to-go appliances. So these are, as an example, the System 50 and the System 300. These are Sangoma appliances that come preloaded with the latest FreePBX image and comes ready to be deployed and configured. So less churn, less time in sourcing various components and putting them together before enabling a customer. So that's mainly, that's the main purpose of these appliances. And for the System 50, we targeted this at the sub 50 user type company with the sweet spot maybe between 10, 20, 30 users. So that's what this System 50 is really for the SMB, replacing key systems and very tiny PBXs. And then the System 300 takes it to a bit of a higher level. It's the same functionality, the same FreePBX, but is delivered on a more powerful platform and can sustain up to about 300 user of any business of up to about 300 users. So very flexible. Our channels of distribution, our reseller can pick those up. They can put their own bundle together if they want, adding their own phones, adding their own gateways, cards, SBCs, and be able to offer a complete IPPBX option.
You mentioned earlier you updated to Express for Link. Could you tell us more about the Sangoma Express for Link Skype for Business support and why this is essential for businesses?
Okay, yes, for sure. So, we hear a lot these days about communications, and UC or UC for shorts. It's very popular because for businesses, that have people traveling, working from home in different countries, it's the next best thing to be than to be face-to-face and travel. So UC allows you to be very productive by, with presence updates, being able to share documents, work on documents, set up video or conference calls on the fly. And we tend to think of UC only for the very large multinational companies, okay? But it is useful. Many small companies these days, are widely distributed. Prime example is Sangoma, with people traveling, and so small businesses should have access to unified communication. So one option for unified communication is Skype for Business, which is the Microsoft solution. In general, it is perceived as very complex. It needs a lot of moving parts. It needs sophisticated IT groups, or to hire sophisticated installers or gold partners of Microsoft. And what is happening now in the marketplace is with Microsoft offering of Office 365, this makes the features, the complexity a lot more accessible for small businesses. And that is why we've put Skype for Business Express, or rather Express for Skype for Business, because it is a ready-to-go appliance to deploy Link at an SMB. So we provide a powerful server that has all the right components embedded in, okay, and any partner, any SMB can take this and go and install and get ready using Skype for Business in their enterprise. And interwork that, with what Microsoft calls the hybrid scenario, where you have equipment on premise and it ties up with your subscription of Office 365. And that combination is really appealing for the SMB, and it's also a lot more accessible. That's why it's becoming very popular.
Why should VoIPon customers purchase the Sangoma Express for Link Skype for Business over rival products from companies such as Audio Codes?
Our approach, our angle in providing this kind of ready-to-go appliance for Skype for Business is that we approached it from the fact that more and more IT managers, the people at any enterprise that are managing now both the phone systems and the IT are really IT guys, IT managers, IT technicians. And the way we've built our platform, it's a Windows Server 2012 platform. So any IT manager that boots up our Express for Skype for Business will get into a familiar world of Windows Server 2012. That's what they're trained on. And we rely on this kind of operating system to be more readily accessible, more readily supportable and configurable for the IT personnel that is out there. So instead of growing a embedded platform and trying to add modules to it so that it can run Windows, our platform runs on Windows. All of the special components that come from Sangoma, be it our session border controller or the voice over IP gateway that is also required for a Skype for Business deployment, all of these things run on a single Windows Server 2012 instance. So more supportable, more flexible, more friendlier to deploy. That is the key elements here.
We have seen the Sangoma product offering increased over recent years, from cards to gateways to Skype for Business, session border controllers to the acquisition of FreePBX. We've also heard of new product offerings such as VoIP phones and cloud PBX solutions will soon be part of your product portfolio. Is Sangoma looking to become a one-stop shop for VoIP equipment?
Good question. So we, when you look at the evolution, just a few years back, we were just selling cards, and we've enhanced that with more, I would say, ready-to-go, appliances as opposed to subcomponents, such as gateways, SBC, PBXs, and services. And when you look at this evolution, it is to answer the customer needs, but it's also looking to completeness of offering. Right. So, and when you look at every step of the way, what we've done is nothing is redundant. No new product line came in and killed the other one before. It's really all complementary. It's really all trying to match and meet the ecosystem requirements of our partners. Okay, and to really build our, as almost like a one-door stop for our partners to source all the various parts that an integrator might need, or an installer, or whatever telecom solution might need. So when you look at this evolution, from cards to gateways to SBCs to PBXs, and now even with hosted services like the fax service I mentioned earlier, like the SIP trunking service I mentioned earlier, you can expect from Sangoma to keep going into that direction. So more offerings that are hosted, and more products that are part of the overall equation of selling a telecom solution.
As technology changes, more users are moving straight to SIP over traditional ISDN lines, meaning less demand for cards and gateways. What plans does Sangoma have to deal with some products becoming legacy?
Okay. So it's true that when you look, especially our cards and our voice over IP gateways, right, they all cater to situations where you need to connect to the legacy network. But this legacy network has been evolving and is evolving fast towards SIP. So over time, we can imagine that the demand for TDM interface, for legacy interfaces, will continue to go down. And I've been, if I recall, I think the first voice over IP bid I ever worked on was back in '96, almost 20 years ago. And back then, we all thought the legacy network would disappear in just a few years, and yet we're still here 20 years later. And there's still a lot of legacy. It's true that SIP is rising super fast, whether it's SIP trunking, whether it's IPPBX, SIP phones, but it is still a small portion of the total. I was looking at numbers, it's in the US, but there's still about 70% of enterprises that use a T1 or PRI, and I would expect, so sorry about providing US-based figures, but I would expect, the UK market, for instance, to be very similar in proportion. So that area still has low growth. SIP has high growth, but that points to the fact that you still need a lot of gateways or cards to be able to interact with the legacy network. Okay, so that's one thing. So we're still, yes, these products might not have the same kind of growth, but we will still sell them, we will still maintain them, we will still invest in them because they're a significant market. Just the example of, I mentioned earlier, we released the Vega 3000G product. That's a gateway with analog phones interface, and that's an example, a prime example of continuous investment. So that being said, where things are shifting to is the use of session border controllers, right? So as the PSTN, the legacy interface requirements dwindle, this is shifting towards using session border controllers to address. There's a whole new set of interoperability and interconnection issues that happen when you use SIP trunking, and that's what SBCs are there to provide. So that's kind of a logical reason for us to have invested and entered the session border controller market. So this is our way to address this transition that is happening in the marketplace. But for sure, voice over IP gateways and cards will be sold supported by Sangoma for a long time.
Can we expect to see any new products launched from Sangoma this year? If so, could you tell us more about them?
Yes, so of course, we have a heavy roadmap that is, continue to invest in our existing products and new products. But as I mentioned earlier, you can look for Sangoma to keep adding products that are complementary to our offering today. Whether it's gateways, SBCs, maybe phones, things like that. And for sure, what you'll see from Sangoma is increasing presence in the hosted type services. So again, I mentioned earlier, we have a fax service, we have a SIP trunking service, and we will be looking to expand. These services today are offered in the USA only, so we will be looking to expand those internationally. And as well as we're thinking about offering new types of hosted services that might be, in the realm of IP-centric or hosted PBX kind of services. But we're still working on the definition of those.
Thank you for joining us today, Frederic, and bringing the VoIPon listeners up to date with the latest developments at Sangoma. This has been a VoIPon Covered podcast. For more information, please visit www.voipon.co.uk.